Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 257 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud and very tired host of the podcast, Howard Kravitz. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I'm really excited to discuss the Oaks Derby and a lot of behind-the-scenes videos and pictures from this past weekend. I had an unbelievable time, as did my brother. We'll be talking about that and the races as well. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Our subscriptions have gone up tremendously. We really appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like button. That will tell the YouTube generator to send us to the send people to the HHH Racing Podcast, and also hit the notification bell so you know when new content will arise. You can follow me on Twitter. You can see at @HKravitz. Bob on the screen. Email hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have Power Picks down below. I gave out a over $1,000 pick 5 for this past Friday on Oaks Day if you used my ABC ticket. And other than that, though, yikes. It was a rough weekend, a lot of close calls. We'll be talking about that. Certainly, I had the major disease of seconitis all weekend. Got the feeling a lot of people at the track and at OTBs throughout the country had rough weekends in general. Hopefully you cashed with many nice scores, though, as well. We have a website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And if you click on, I believe, the other tab at the top, there's some great pictures we have. And we're going to show a lot of pictures and videos tonight on the show here from the Derby weekend. But we have some great stuff already up on the website, thanks to Paul Halloran and especially Pete Visco, who runs the website. So check that out as well. We have a show tomorrow night. As you see on the ticker, tomorrow night, Bettin and Boozin is back covering Santa Anita Saturday with a nice stakes race and probably some NBA talk as well with Kyle Roscoe, Charlie Freeman, and Patrick Kunzel. And then also this Thursday night flagship show, myself, Pete, Paul, Jim Miller. Really good card at Belmont. They traditionally have that the week after the Derby. They got the Peter Pan, Man of War, Run Happy stakes, I believe. 3 graded stakes. I believe they're all graded. Really nice card at Belmont as they get their preps in for the Belmont Stakes coming up in approximately 5.5 weeks from now, which I'm very happy that I will be there as well at the Belmont. Let's see. We've got some comments here in the chat real quick. We have some dude that I think I know. Michael Kravitz, my brother, Mike. How you doing? Mike is in the chat. Probably first time in a very long time. He played a big role this weekend as he did a lot of videotaping for me and had an unbelievable time. So Mike, my brother Mike, is on the show. Michael Osen is here. Yeah, Mattress Mac. Don't feel bad for Mattress Mac, Michael Osen, because he's doing just fine. Matt Miller is here. Kravitz royalty. I don't know about that. Pretty sure that's a brother in the audience. It is. So Matt Miller commenting, and let's see what else we got. Racing Down Win. Congratulations to Racing Down Win. I don't know if our co-host heard. Racing Down Win qualified for the NHC. So congratulations to Racing Down Win. Marco Liu had an unbelievable weekend. Phil Conti, good evening. Got a lot of people here. All right, we got a lot to do, Penn State Scott, and a lot of videos and things to talk about. Let me bring on my great co-hosts. First, let's bring on my Kentucky Derby brethren and co-host of the show from the Saratoga Special, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and most recently from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and my partner in crime at the Kentucky Derby, Mr. Paul Halloran. We've got also from the great state of Maryland, which will be our focus the next few weeks, of course, as well. Let me turn off Phil Conti as we're going to Pimlico next. And Pete Visco's home state. There he is, Pete Visco, and the host of Bettin and Boozin, Mr. Kyle Roscoe. Guys, going back to the traditional green background we missed it in a while. Paul, how you doing? I'm a little bit tired, I got to admit.
Yeah, I feel like a quarter horse is trying to get 10 furlongs.
I think that's the good analogy. Pete, any Derby hangover for you, either literally or figuratively?
No. I mean, sitting at home and not drinking, you don't have any bad feelings for once the next day. Plus, I won for the day, so everything was all good.
That's awesome, Pete. Kyle, I know that you sort of took on the chin like myself and many other people from the betting perspective, but it's still Derby weekend. Pretty cool.
No, absolutely. And got to spend it with the beautiful girlfriend up in Wisconsin, and she was getting more into it than I was. So it just, it's like, when you raise a kid and she's out there, doing her own thing, it's pretty cool to watch.
No question about that. And Paul's sporting the Cody's Wish hat, which we'll talk about Cody's Wish. Dare I say, Paul, the most impressive effort of the weekend, to be unbiased even?
Absolutely. And we'll talk about it when we talk about the race, but had a chance to talk to Junior after the race, and he said he never felt better beneath him than Saturday, which is kind of a scary thought.
Yeah.
This is a horse who's coming off a Breeders' Cup dirt mile win where he had a dual cyber knife all the way to the wire. He said he had more horse underneath him Saturday than he's ever felt. So that was certainly the highlight of the weekend for me.
And Pete, we can add this to the stat sheet. Cody's Wish with Cody Dorman at the track, now 5 for 5, Pete. Undefeated.
Yes, we said that. Hey, we called that. I mean, it wasn't that much of a good tip with the odds as they were, but we give out what we can.
And it wasn't much of a closer's track really either in many races. And he went 121 and change, Paul. Now going to the Met Mile. We'll just take care of the Cody Wish story right now, I guess. But going to the Met Mile, I heard Zozos might go, but I'll tell you what, it's going to take a superior effort to beat Cody's Wish right now.
Yeah, he was far back. He was at the back of the pack. And, I was thinking, this is a lot, as you said, how it wasn't, I think it was an honest track, but it certainly wasn't. If it was favoring anything, you'd have to say horses closer to the front than the back. And what's amazing is he brings Junior into these races. If you watch when he makes his move on that turn, same as the Breeders' Cup, it's with very little urging from Junior. He just decides, okay, it's time to go, and my friend Cody's in the winner's circle, and I want to go see him. And he just, boy, that was an impressive turn of foot. I saw the Saratoga race in person when he beat Jackie's Warrior, and saw that. And I agree with you. I hope a lot of good horses come, because maybe you'll be even money. Pete, he was even money going to the gate, by the way,
I
Pete.
know.
And
Yeah,
I had my phone out. I was watching the board closely, and if he was going to go off at even money, I was going to do my part to knock him to 4 to 5.
I mean, the problem is, they go in the gate at even money, and he comes out at 1 to 5, so you never know what's going to happen at that point.
But 3 to 5 was the final tally.
Guys like Paul.
Yeah,
windows.
Well, Paul's got that grade 1 gamble money now. He can swing the odds a little bit more than he used to.
That's exactly
That's what I hear. Guys, so for my wonderful people on the screen here and everyone home listening and watching, this is going to be a little bit of a difficult show from a technical standpoint for me. I've got a lot of videos to show. Some have audio. I'm going to show some pictures. We don't want to make this just about the Oaks and Derby and, just blab on for an hour about trips. I mean, they were both pretty cleanly run races. We're obviously going to talk about the races, but the experience that I had and Paul had, Paul's been there before. It was only his second time. The experience I had, I can't even begin to tell everyone how amazing it was. And the pocketbook was not great for me. No doubt about it. I'm certainly not going to come on here and say that I won when I did not, when I lost my ass, but the experience so much overblew any kind of losses that I had for the weekend that it was just absolutely outstanding. So we're going to talk about the Oaks. We're going to talk about the Derby. I'm going to show some videos. As my brother knows, who is probably still in the chat or listening, the sound quality for some of the videos are not going to be great. It is not my brother's fault at all. We were messing with a new camera, it's not the actual video is going to be fine in general. The sound is not great, but there were so many really cool interviews and things to show. So if you're home watching live, just be prepared to turn the sound either up or down, and just bear with us, because I did a bunch of editing and spent a lot of time trying to get as much as we can here on the show with a limited amount of time, because we want to go only about an hour at most. So that being said, before we talk about the Oaks, guys, very quickly, I just want to show everyone, and the show is not about me. So you're going to see a lot of me, but that's because there was a lot of pictures and video with me there for my first derby. But I want to get the impression that we're going to talk about me for an hour, because we're absolutely not. The first thing I want to show people is sort of the view we had. And Paul, as I show this view, can you please talk about Darren Rodgers and Kevin Kirsten and the unbelievable job the media relations people did taking care of everyone at Churchill Downs this weekend?
Yeah, I think I saw a number of between everyone. Oh, there's Howard. I think 2,000 credentialed media start to finish, including photographers and production assistants and NBC. And it was really managed well. You know, pretty large press room that looked to me like a former simulcast center. You know, photographers on one side, the rest of us on the other, and then a section of seats. That's the view from section 322 that Howard is showing you. That's a section that is available for the media to watch the races from. And, you know, they got it down to a science. You know, we were there on Friday with 105,000 people, and I said, what the hell is this place going to be like tomorrow with 50% more people? But it was actually pretty manageable. Not having general admission folks in the building is a huge help. If you had just a general admission ticket and no seat, you were relegated to the infield. So that, I think, made the building somewhat manageable. So I didn't think it wasn't as bad getting around there as I thought it would be. And yeah, hats off to Darren and Kevin and, you know, all the guys who we watched in the morning, Joe Christofek and Scott Shapiro and James Scully and Caitlin Free and Rosie. You know, the whole team down there did a great job.
Nah, it was first class all the way. I have nothing else to add. They really took care of us, some food, to just everything. The hospitality end was fantastic. Let's go ahead and actually before we show the actual Oaks and talk about it, I did a bunch of stand-ups, guys. And again, if the sound is not great, I profusely apologize, because I know there's going to be some issues with it. But I do want to show, I thought we had some cool things to show. So first of all, we're going to show me in the tunnel. This was part of the access we had. I mean, I'm laughing because it's just crazy, guys, the access we had. And shout out to my brother, by the way. He created a cool thing below the mic, as you can see there, the HHH Racing Podcast. I dressed the part. Let's hear what I have to say. As you can see, there's South Lawn there in the back. Let's see what I have to say. And again, be ready to adjust any sound as they came through the tunnel here. This is going to be approximately 15, 20 seconds or so. You should be able to hear this, everyone.
Is it me or do I not hear it?
No,
Yeah,
I don't hear anything. Yeah, I can't hear
You guys don't hear it?
Nope.
That's interesting. Okay, sorry about that. Well,
but I bet it was eloquent.
It was.
And life changing. I'm sure we're missing out completely.
Okay, I find that bizarre because I presented it with.
I heard enough from him all weekend, Pete.
Yeah, I was going to say there's nothing there. I mean, unless...
I know. Actually, I know why now. Let's try it again. Sorry, guys. Let's try this again. My bad.
The horses for the 2023 Kentucky Oaks are coming through the tunnel. We just saw South Lawn go by. The favorite right now, Wet Paint, the number 7. She's a fantastic closer. She is right behind me as we speak. She has a good shot to win this race. There's plenty of early speed to set up her close.
So that was me before the race, guys. It was just, I mean, the access, Kyle. The Oaks horses are right behind me, like I'm on freaking NBC or something. It's just crazy.
Yeah, you got while you're doing an interview going over, oh, there's South Lawn, there's Botanical, there's Wet Paint. And look, there's Brad Cox that's about to bump into me as I move past. You know, it's awesome. And really the quality wasn't that bad. And I love the official mic and makes it look even better.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was fun. And I'll show you the view. I'll show you. This is not going to be audio. This is not going to be video, guys. I'm going to try to show you one more thing as I'm talking here. Oh, that's not it. Our views were just unbelievable. Paul just attested to it. This was there's no video here, guys. But again, this is, you can sort of get a sense. That's Paul. Pretty much, we were sitting right above that, Paul. We were right at the 8th pole. It's just a beautiful view.
It was a great spot. Yeah, I watched a few races from that section on Thursday and Friday, and actually watched the Derby from that section on Saturday. So it was, it was good to be out in the open air and seeing it live.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead. Pete, I'll let you talk about the race. We'll show the whole race. I'm going to do it without. I'm going to turn the sound off here, and let me go ahead and bring it up here, Pete. Of course, pretty mischievous, the 14. Did anything surprise you in this race? She was pretty wide, Pete. I thought this was a huge effort. We'll talk about the buyer and everything, but she ran huge. There's really no else way to say it.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, the surprise, not necessarily a surprise, but I mean, I think people wrote that horse off just a little bit, because I think before what was the race when she lost to South Lawn, before the Fairground Oaks? Before the Fairground Oaks, she was potentially one of the top few choices, because she came off that rolling of Who's Your Filly, and then, you know, she has one little stumble, loses to South Lawn, and doesn't pop a nice buyer, didn't look to improve. And then, you know, now she's whatever she went off at, 10-1. So it's amazing how your fortunes, at least from a betting standpoint, can change. And then what she wound up doing was just running sort of a not too dissimilar race than she had been running before that. I mean, she was a little bit further back maybe than normal, but you know, she's a good quality horse. She looked good going into the Fairground Oaks, and she came out of the Kentucky Oaks just looking top notch. I mean, again, it was we're going to get to the buyers and stuff. It was a 92 buyer. It wasn't like anyone exploded, but it was still better than what the other filly prep races were up until that point for the most part.
Paul, supposedly Drew said Wet Paint just didn't handle the track as well. You're going to see her. She's a little hard. She's like right in the Godolphin right here. If you guys can see my arrow there. I mean, she made a move, but she just didn't have that explosion, Paul, she showed at Oaklawn.
Yeah, I didn't think she had much of an excuse in this race. She's not, you know, she's about 3 lengths behind, pretty mischievous. You know, credit here, I think, go to the connections. Brendan Walsh, the trainer, and Tyler with a great ride out of the 14. Got her over far enough so she was about 4 wide on the first turn instead of 5, 6, or 7. But after that Fairground Oaks that Pete had mentioned, when she got caught by South Lawn, you know, they thought she just kind of hung a little bit in the stretch and idled and waited. And Brendan Walsh, you know, there's two schools of thought on making a major equipment move going into a race like this, and he did not hesitate. He put the blinkers on her for the first time, put them on in the works. Tyler came in to work her 3 times, coming over presumably from Keeneland, and you know, you could see the difference. She idled a little bit once she hit the lead. You could see she was up by 3 and almost got grabbed by Gambling Girls, but she was much more focused in the stretch, and I really think that was the difference in the loss in the Fairground Oaks and the win on Friday. And hats off to Brendan Walsh and for to the Godolphin people for allowing him to do his job, which is what he thinks is best for the horse. He's a tremendous trainer.
Yeah, Paul, she made a similar move, right? If I remember correctly,
same race.
Oaks, I mean, same move. It's just she just
hung. She gets the lead, and some horses are like that, Pete. You know, they get to the lead and they open up a little bit, and now they're waiting for company. And she got some company Friday. I'll tell you, Gambling Girl was flying. You know, Brendan Walsh, I heard on the radio today, he seemed to think that if she got a sight of Gambling Girl up real close, should have taken off again, just because that's what she does. But she was definitely more focused in the stretch on Friday. And, hats off. Brendan and Michael Banahan from Godolphin at the press conference after the race talked about at dinner after the Fairground Oaks. Brendan brought the subject up for the first time that he thinks he might want to try blinkers. And he said he was like 75% sure. And then once he worked her in him once, he was 100% sure.
Yeah, it's crazy because we talked about that, that before a big race, it's a scary thing to do, to try something out. But hey, in this case, you're going home with the Oaks trophy. So, it worked out well.
Kyle, I sort of, maybe I'm not giving enough credit to Pretty Mischievous. Watching it live, I thought Gambling Girl was going by. She ran a huge race, but there's a small part, and she ran her by her top, so maybe I'm way off base here, but it sort of feels like she should have gone by. I don't know. South Lawn didn't, Paul disagrees. South Lawn didn't fire, really, and Botanical broke slow, and just the second, third choices just didn't fire. Any thoughts on Botanical, South Lawn, or Gambling Girl? Just ran a monster race. I guess it just got beat, I suppose.
I mean, we said it on the show when we went over the 2-day pick six for the Kentucky Oaks. We said we talked about Pretty Mischievous because there was actually a viewer in the chat that really liked her and like Gambling Girl. So kudos to, I can't remember the name off my top of my head, but kudos to them. And I really just thought Gambling Girl was going to run her race. Just seemed a little slow on paper as comparatively to a horse like Wet Paint, who looked like they were going to do the same exact thing. And just based on prior performance, it looked like Wet Paint was just easily the better horse. Could be wrong on that. I mean, like you guys stated, she really didn't have too many excuses in that race. And Gambling Girl ran huge. But I think, to Pete's point earlier, I think Pretty Mischievous, I think that was a great ride from Tyler to get her over just around the first turn, have her 2-3 wide, and just keep her in the clear the whole way around. And I don't think you really have to discredit anything. I think the top two ran big races and the rest just didn't fire.
I think that's fair enough. Here's my video very quickly, just about 20 seconds here after the race. This was my discussion on what we should hear the audio, guys. This is me right after the race.
The 2023 Kentucky Oaks is in the book. Pretty Mischievous, the Godolphin homebred, trained by Brendan Walsh and ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, gets the job done with a wide trip and a huge effort at 10-1. Gambling Girl, a big effort for second for Rapoli and Pletcher, and the number 2 gets in third. A tremendous Kentucky Oaks 2023. Your winner, the number 14, Pretty Mischievous.
So that, I mean, by the way, we had it, Paul. We had access right there to watch the race, and I didn't show the video, but I mean, we could have watched all of the races right on the rail, close to the fin. I mean, relative. Probably the 16th pole. Again, the access was just tremendous, Paul.
Yeah, well, I certainly watched the Cody's Wish race from the finish line with right next to a little guy named Cody. So that was the one race I was going to watch from there.
There's no question. And then you mentioned the press conference, Paul. Actually got a short, very short. This is from the press conference.
This is pretty funny. This is when Howard was sitting right behind me, and I didn't know he was there.
I
had no clue he was there. He was 2 feet away.
He's always lurking, Paul. He's always right behind you.
Kind of one of us was really working, and one of us was trying to impress his podcast viewers.
No, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I just want to get people
Right, Pete?
Yes,
man. I mean,
I'm glad you said it because you were there. So I didn't want to say it because I wasn't there, so I didn't want to.
I just want to give people a feel for the day, but I don't know where it is. So now I lost. But anyway,
the day seems slow and boring at the rate we're getting this video up. So I'm hoping it wasn't like this when we were there.
We're gonna. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Here it is. I found it. Hold on 1 second. So this was just real quick. Here's the video. Me asking Tyler a question at the press conference, and there's a gentleman sitting in front of me in a white shirt who is completely oblivious to the fact that it's me behind him.
I'm ready for the reaction.
Tyler, congratulations on winning the Oaks. The horse was pretty wide on backstretch. We'll tuck in a little bit, but then you went wide again. How do you believe the track is playing, and what do you think that will lead into tomorrow's races?
You know, the track's been very fair the past week or so, especially today. On the main course earlier in the day, I came from last up the fence. The road was good. This race I was 4 wide most of the way, and it seems pretty fair and pretty level.
So I just wanted to ask him, and you know, they were coming wide. I thought they were coming wide in a lot of the races on the dirt, Pete, over the weekend. He had one horse come up the rail, but I thought the middle paths were pretty good, Pete, overall.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seemed. I agree with Paul what he said earlier. Though I thought the track was just playing pretty fair. I think just the best ones, the best ones won, and then sometimes it was in the middle. I mean, if you get a nice, I always like when you can get out in the open and sort of run a straight line. And if you got a good enough horse, then I like that trip anyway.
I do think, Pete. I think the turf course was speed favoring.
Turf course was speed.
degree.
Yeah, that was killing me. Hey, Ralph in the chat, by the way, my Yankee Stadium sign, it fell. It's sitting right next to me. I just need to put it back up. Thanks for asking, though.
Guys, let's go to the Derby. Mage is your winner. It was an excellent race. I'm not kicking myself at all. We hit the super effective for the people that were involved in the syndicate, which was very cool. I just overall thought it'd be a little bit too much too soon. I mean, it's very hard to win off of only 3 lifetime starts. There's no doubt that this horse is super talented, and everyone knows who follows the show that Pete, Paul, and myself especially had a big debate about the Florida Derby and who ran the better race. To be very fair, we still don't know because Forte hasn't run, Pete. So for me to come on and sit here and say Paul and I were right that Mage ran the better race because of the Derby is just asinine. That being said, Pete, you got to give an unbelievable amount of credit to Javier Castellano and Mage, and we'll go ahead and show the replay in a minute. But just your general thoughts, each one of you, real quick thoughts on the Derby, then we'll get into details.
Yeah, I think Castellano gets a lot of the credit because he got the perfect trip. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He got the jump on Angel of Empire. He ran a similar race just with a little bit more patience than he had in the Florida Derby. Forte would have ran by him if he was on the track, so it would have been sort of a duplication of the Florida Derby.
Wow.
So, but I think that he ran the race he was supposed to, and I mean he reminds me. The funny thing is, and I hate this horse, so I hate to not to compare them, but he runs the turns and he sort of did like Sunday Silence used to beat Easy Goer on the turns always, and not in comparison, but I think that's how he beat Angel of Empire because he beat him on the turn. He pulled away. He got to the spot. He pulled away on the turns. And that's what stupid Sunday Silence used to do to Easy Goer. So it pissed me off today. Well, actually, it didn't piss me off here. I had, I wanted Angel of Empire, though. So It pissed me off just a touch.
Again, I thought your Angel ran well, Pete. I couldn't find any excuses at all. I thought he ran perfectly fine. It
was fine. He just wasn't as good. And he didn't, you get the jump on a horse. And even if you're of similar, I think Mage is more talented than Angel of Empire. And that was always the worry. And I think he got the better ride and he got the better trip in terms of just the move that he made. And, he got the pace too.
Matt just mentioning how cool it was for us to be all this access. And Michael, it is not a one-shot deal. My brothers, welcome back. We'll get better equipment. Paul or Kyle, any just real snapshot thoughts on Mage and or Two Phils, who I thought actually ran the best race of anyone, in my opinion.
Well, I would say this about Mage versus Forte, and we don't know. It was really bad that Forte didn't get to run, but Forte ran 5 times as a 2-year-old, as a 2-year-old champion. So that's a lot of seasoning. Mage did not run as a 2-year-old. So I will tell you one thing. If I had to own either horse today, it would be Mage. That doesn't mean Forte won't beat him when he finally gets to run against him. But for Mage to run like that off 3 lifetime races and no races as a 2-year-old, the upside is unbelievable. I don't, without Forte in the Preakness, and it looks like he won't be, which is a whole other story. We don't want to go down that road about the Kentucky vet. And, Shug McGahee was on with Steve Bick today. And, Shug McGahee is a guy who was probably as well respected as any trainer in history. And I get it. that there were horses who had died going in, and it's the Derby, and we want to be super careful and all that. But I think we're getting to the point of overcorrection, and I think we were at that point on Saturday. But again, that's another story for another show. But back to, I want to see Forte back out there as soon as possible. I just think you got to give Mage a ton of credit for looking like he looked on paper to all of us. And I loved him in the Florida Derby. I'm kind of kicking myself that I had him all over the place underneath on Saturday, just not on the top line. But to do that off of that little seasoning, although that is the trend, right? That's twice now. And what was Justified 4 years ago,
Yeah.
5 years ago? So twice in 5 years that a horse who hasn't run it too has won the Derby. But I think Mage's upside is huge. And I do agree, Howard. I think Two Phils, the horses around the pace with Two Phils finished 13th, 14th, and 16th. And he finished a close second. So hats off to him and Ravelli. And Ravelli is making the right move. There's no reason to run that horse back in 2 weeks after an effort like that.
Real quick, Kyle, I want to shout out to De Palma, who I just put in the chat, who had shares of Mage, and we've not seen De Palma 13 in the chat. De Palma 13, congratulations, man. It's
Congrats.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Vince Watson, also, I see you in the chat. So, Vince, welcome. Kyle, Two Phils ran a blinder, as Davey Lean would say. I mean, Jareth had to make that early move because the hole was there. You couldn't ask anything more of this horse. If he goes to Belmont, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be a threat there too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I thought it was the perfect move, honestly, for Jareth to make. You said he has to make it. All these people before the Derby all crapping on Jareth Loveberry because they just don't recognize who he is.
We talked about it.
Unbelievable. I mean, I hope that puts more respect on his name than anything, honestly, because he's a great guy, he's a great jockey. And he made the moves he had to make and just, didn't have enough horse at the end. That's the way it goes. But absolute bang-up race from him. Angel Empire, I think, ran his race, just didn't necessarily have the horse to get to Mage, who, as Pete touched on, got the jump on him in the end.
Well, the other concern I had, Pete and Paul, with Mage was the breeding. Good Magic wasn't really proven at this distance. And he was very clear. He was a B as in boy for me in my ABC. I wish I keyed him. I wish I put him on top in the supers more often than we did. But there were just enough question marks me to just be not so sure. And obviously, he went off at 15-1. But we'll talk. Some of the odds were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs as usual. Two people we talked about very quickly. I want to show. This is my interview with Matt Bernier. And if you guys will allow me to go on for about 2.5 minutes here, because who doesn't want to hear Matt Bernier? This was before the race. You can see him at the NBC TV there. Ed Olchuk was there with him, but I was able to interview Matt before he went on air. Thank you very much to Matt Bernier for giving us the time. Here's about a 2+ minute interview with Matt Bernier. We are talking, of course, before the race. Enjoy my interview with Matt.
Howard Fallon's here with the HHH Racing Podcast, and I'm here with my good friend and NBC analyst, Matt Bernier. Matt, how you doing today?
Look at this. The roles are reversed.
How about that, huh?
A little different this time.
Not bad.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Derby day.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. Thanks for being with us today. So, big news this morning as we're talking here on Derby Day. Forte scratch.
Yes.
How does that affect the race in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it was already a bit of a crapshoot, and now even more so. It sounds like Mattress Mac's going to be the one that decides who the favorite is between Angel of Empire and Tapit Trice. At this point right now, again, obviously this is a little bit later, but Tapit Trice is slightly behind Angel of Empire. I think it's like $15,000 difference between the two. I wouldn't be surprised, don't quote me on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Angel of Empire.
Wow, I know a certain Caleb Keller definitely wants Angel of Empire. I actually talked to him this morning down in the media room. He's very excited about it.
I know a certain Howard Kravitz that would appreciate it if it's Tapit Trice.
Yes, I would definitely like Tapit Trice. So, Matt, give me your top pick. How do you think the race flow is going to develop? What do you think about this year's Derby 2023?
I think the pace is always kind of the unknown, and this year it doesn't look like there's any real burners in there. But then again, I think it's one of those things that if we all sit here and say there's no speed, a few connections are going to look at it and go, let's send. And next thing you know, they're going 47, and anybody that's involved in the race has a chance. I've liked Angel of Empire throughout. I'm going to stick with him. I don't love him as the favorite, but at the same time, favorite. Well, what does favorite even really technically mean? It's the shortest price, but if you still think there's value there, that's all that really matters. I am interested in Dermisota Gake. I think he could run a big race in here. I guess my real opinion is I don't think Verifying can get the distance. And Tapit Trice, he just got to work out a trip. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes running late, but I'm afraid of being down in there.
Yeah, that's my only concern. I do have to ask you one more very interesting development with what happened today. With Irad obviously not riding Forte, Irad is now on Cyclone Mischief, a speed horse. Now, I'm sure Dale Roman would love to win this race, but, Irad and Todd Pletcher obviously have a great relationship. Maybe make sure he goes hard and sets up for my boy TT.
I think Irad's still looking for his first Derby. So I think he's going to ride to win. And if that means going to the front, he's going to go. And if it means somebody else wants to go and you can sit sort of that American Pharoah 3-wide trip, you're going to do that as well. Look, they're all friendly. They all work together. They all want to win, though.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, we really appreciate you being on the HHH Racing Podcast. Have a great telecast today.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, thanks a lot.
It's really well. Thank you, Paul. Wow, I appreciate that. It's coming from a journalist, especially. Paul, Matt didn't have to do that. I mean, we don't need to talk about the praises for Matt Bernier, but he did not have to do that about 10 minutes before he was getting some production stuff in for the show. Thank you to Matt Bernier. He's just a great guy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, he is. He really is. He's a genuine guy. I known him for a while from when he was on the TV show, Horse Players, which is kind of would put him on the national stage, and he's the real deal. And I'm glad he's really between NBC and FanDuel. He's doing quite a bit of work, and he's doing great work.
Yeah, his family is with him, and he finally gets to go home to Maine. So he's been Kyle and Pete. If you've been paying attention to him or the show, I mean, he's been traveling since like the fairgrounds, like February. Pete, it's crazy.
Yeah, busy man,
for sure. I'm sorry, Kyle. Go ahead. Did you want to?
No, I was gonna say. I mean, we talked to him at Kentucky, and yeah, he's been on the road since February, and he's like, he was. This was at Keeneland for the Grade 1 Gamble. He was talking to us at our table when he was like, "Yeah, got to go here, and then go into the Derby, and it's finally time to go home." So
yep.
And when you have a young child like he does, it's it's good for some family time.
Just real quick, I'm not going to show the whole thing. I just want to give a recognition shout out to Kevin Kilroy, who's been on the show a few times from the Fairgrounds podcast. He also gave us a quick minute. I'm just going to show about 30 seconds, guys, with Kevin Kilroy.
Howard Kravitz here, hosting the HHH Racing Podcast on Derby Day with Kevin Kilroy, Fairgrounds analyst and notes writer. Kevin, this is your second time in the Derby. You've been on our show before, so welcome back. How are you enjoying the experience this weekend?
Hey, what about it? Your first one? This is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's great, going to be in the paddock with everything, be in the thick of it, be able to see these really, really classy animals up close and personal, and being just by all this, mayhem, right? People getting dressed up and looking good. It's fun, man. But Howard, the best part is all the lead up, being there in the morning. The races are great. When you're training with these, with these connections with these horses and watching it, it's special, man. It's really neat back there.
I know.
His pick, by the way, was Confidence Game. He really liked Confidence Game. Didn't work out. I'd never have a problem, guys. Someone going with a long shot. Thanks. Shout out to Kevin Kilroy. Let's show the race in its entirety, guys. We'll show the whole thing through. In terms of the start of the race, Pete and Kyle and Paul, there are a few things that happened that were extremely important to me. Cyclone Mischief didn't break at all. Was never a factor. Dermisota Gake did not break well. And Verifying, we talked about who would have the lead the first quarter, guys. That was one of the few things I was right about this weekend. Verifying did have the lead. I thought it'd be 22-4. They were going fast, Kyle. We talked about this on this show. You talked about it. I think everyone, Pete and Paul, thought this pace would be faster than people were saying it would be. And Kyle sure turned out exactly that way. They were flying.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, we knew Verifying had to go from the inside, but I mean, he was legitimately just fired out of there, as you'll see out of the gate. And I stated on the show that I thought, it's like I said, Cyclone Mischief put a lot of pace in the race, but he doesn't break. So now where do you go? But I mean, you could just see it. Mad Dash. There's a lot of horses from the outside that just want the lead, but ultimately, it's just going to be Verifying and Kingsbarns. And Reincarnate, obviously, also to his outside. Jace's Road, who we thought was going to be on the lead from the outside, tucks in right next to two Phils. But, I mean, they're flying.
I hate to say it, Paul, but this is no bueno. This is TT back here. He didn't really get checked or studied. I watched it like 5 or 6 times. Just these two horses here. This is Angel of Empire, by the way. Just would not let. I mean, actually, is Angel maybe the one in front of him? But anyway, these two horses, Paul, they weren't blocking him. He just didn't have a hole to make an early move, Paul, and he just couldn't get into position. And I don't know what you felt, but even though they were going fast, I knew you and I were in a lot of trouble with our TT pick at this point.
Yeah, I think he had absolutely no excuse. He was 3 lengths behind Mage right here, and Mage went on and won the race, and he ran a non-threatening 7th. So let's not try to look at. I was as higher on him than anyone, but let's not disguise the fact that he ran terribly in this race.
Well, and two Phils is in between Pete. He's tugging right here. And Pete, can I ask you a question? We always see goofy shit in the Derby. What the hell is Reincarnate doing at 14-1? I know Paul and I were completely against this horse. I can't recall. I think you didn't love him either, really, but those odds are just silly.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get too bogged down. The odds are weird. It's the Derby. You never know. You never know what horse is going to take money and for what reason. So you sort of just look at the board, and if you like the problem is you look at a horse and you go, I don't like the horse. I don't care if he's 90. I don't care if he's 14 or 10. If you don't like the horse at all and think they have no shot, then it doesn't really matter. It's nice. You want them to take money because then hopefully that means one of your horses is floating up higher than they should be. So that's the way I look at it.
Kyle, I'm freezing it here because I felt like this is the move we're talking about. You could say Jared should have waited. No, there's a hole open. He's got a plenty horse. Just freaking go for it and take a chance.
For me, in a race like the Derby, like you have that hole, you take that hole. And I thought he ran a absolutely perfect race. He gets, who do we say, Howard, would have the lead at the top of the stretch of the Derby at the quarter pole? And there he is, right out in front. It's he gets.
And I guess Mage, I was close, Kyle, but we didn't. Now, Kyle, what's very clear is Javier waited a little bit longer than. Shoot, who was on Mage in the Florida Derby, guys? I'm drawing a big blank.
Saez,
thank you. Saez moved early. Castellano was more patient, and I'm not saying Saez ran a bad race in the Florida Derby because he got the jump on Forte, but this is just a move I didn't see Mage making in this race and sustain it. There's nothing to say. He just ran fantastic right here in the middle of the track. And then, of course, two Phil's fights, and here's Pete's Angel of Empire.
I'm going to jump in real quick because I had my future bet was on Hit Show, and at the top of the stretch, I really thought that I had a somewhat chance, and he just doesn't have the horse. But, I mean, Castellano waits and just runs a perfect race. Angel of Empire is coming at him, not necessarily going away length, but still perfect ride by Castellano. He finally gets the roses draped over him.
Paul, here's Disarm, your pick. I think you picked him for 3rd on the show or maybe 4th. I don't recall. He ran a bang-up race, and here's Hit Show right here, Paul.
And Disarm is one of the few that are going on to the Preakness, and he did run well. I all my horses that I thought would hit the board. The horse I thought it would win didn't win, which I'm pretty sure it's hard to hit the race when that happens, unless you're playing a show parlay, which I happen to not be playing on that particular day.
Before the race, though, I've got to show a few things real quick, guys. And Paul, I broke the restraining order. Sorry, Paul.
This explains it, Matt Miller. I did the best I could. I kept him away from that horse for 3 days, and there it is. My bad. I apologize, Matt Miller.
No, there were other people that were a lot closer to him than I was, obviously, but there was TT. I was shocked, Paul. I mean, you've done this once before on the walkover. I was shocked.
No, this is my first time, Howard. You said that
on the walkover.
No, my first time at the Derby.
To the Derby. I'm sorry. Why do I keep saying second time for you? I don't know.
I don't know.
You don't listen when people talk.
There you go, Pete.
I mean, he's only said it 100 times.
Pete.
I mean, come on, man.
Easy, Pete. I'm tired. Paul, walkover. It's amazing. It's amazing how close everyone was to these horses. I I just didn't think they would be allow everyone to go within a few feet of the horses. It's weird to me.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about this game. Whether it's in the morning being up on the rail at the Oklahoma and being 2 feet away, and you're right that's the equivalent of running out of the tunnel with Tom Brady almost. You're not getting that close, and that was fun. I would admit I I've been to a lot of events, and this is my first Derby, but that spectacle of walking over, which we've all watched on TV a million times, that really was pretty fun. Just to kind of see the reaction of the crowd. The crowd was really super amped, and I would admit that was fun.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. I just wanted to show just a little bit of the walk over there. We did one other. I'm not going to show the audio. We're going to go ahead and move on. There was one other. I'll just show you the other view just to have it. Otherwise, my brother guys is going to kill me. So but I do want to show one other thing. The Kyle again. By the way, I tried to interview Disarm here, Paul. I tried to interview your buddy, but he wasn't interested. So, in all seriousness. Again, the people were close, and what you don't hear, Paul, if you want to describe, is the atmosphere. Like you said, people are cheering and yelling. You're going to see a guy to my right coming into the frame. I mean, it was really a really festive atmosphere.
Yeah, there's the mage, P. There's the winner, right? Going right by. Why you didn't put the hex on him? Why'd you put the hex on him and leave Tapit Trice alone?
I don't know, but anyway, there's the guy,
young Asmussen.
It was, everyone's just getting excited. It was Kyle to be on the track was from 150 was pretty crazy. I have to say.
I mean, just that video.
Can you imagine?
No, I couldn't. But the fact that you're literally walking away from an animal that's won, $600,000, and has been the horse that you've touted for months, and you could literally reach out and touch him. I mean, and not to mention you're walking right by 150,000 people that are all screaming at these horses. I mean, it's got to be an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was cool. Again, I'm not gonna. I won't play the video, but this was obviously in the paddock. You're gonna see Tapit. Oops, sorry. You'll see Tapit Trice right there. There he is in the background. I mean, crazy. We got that kind of access. He's just parading right behind us, along with all the other horses. And what was cool also, Paul, was because shout out to my brother, because of the mic, like people thought we were on air, or it was like I was actually live reporting. People were like getting out of our way, and like it was. Listen, I don't need my ego stroked, but it was weird and cool at the same time.
Yeah, because of your brother, he developed an illusion that you were legitimate. God love him.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, Pete?
That is some master camera work, I have to say. That is some. Although, hey, Michael, if you're in the chat still, next time there was a nice little lady in a red dress that walked by. You could maybe widen the screen a little bit, so the people for some of us who see Howard too much, we want to see some of the other sites as well.
Well, I could show you. I have a nice picture of Brittany Urton, but I'm not sure that would be appropriate.
No, we don't do that. We talk about strangers. We don't talk about the ones in the industry.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of people were were all dressed up and looked really nice. Here's a picture of Mage in the winner's circle, and after the race, guys, we were around the turf course, Paul, as you well know. And this was, again, courtesy of my brother. Real nice picture. Javier Castellano, just an amazing story, Pete. Had not won it before. And
I'm pretty sure he had the most starts without a Derby win, correct? Before that, I think it was
could be right. I think he had 14 or 15 or 16, yeah. No better guy. He's won the Travers 6 times, by the way. 6 and no Derby.
Shows you how hard it is to win the Derby.
It shows you how hard it is to win.
I'm sorry. Thanks to my bro.
Hey, Michael, you mixed up the nouns there. I think you meant to say Howard was crap. The camera was good. You mixed them up, Michael. I know you're probably a little tired, so your typing isn't as good.
I abstain.
Man, I mean, Pete's on that. I mean, it was Paul. It is, like at the heat of the moment. I mean, you don't get a second or third chance at these things.
Just like the 3-year-olds, the horses don't get a second chance either.
He only get one shot.
I do want to show one more thing that I think everyone finds interesting. We were at Jeff Ruby's that night, and who walked in with Jeff Ruby himself, the owner? Mr. Javier Castellano walked in to Jeff Ruby's guys, and I will show you just a little bit, like 10 or 15 seconds. Here's Javier Castellano at Jeff Ruby's that night.
And thank you to be here to win the Kentucky Derby. And let's celebrate. Right here to celebrate the bigger races, the Star on the ground, the trainer, everybody here. Let's celebrate the 2023 Kentucky Derby.
That's got to be a pretty damn good feeling. But the problem is, Pete and Paul and Kyle, he can't like have a massive meal because these guys got to stay weight. So but I'm sure
he was riding Sunday. He was back at Belmont riding Sunday.
Right.
I'll tell you, there's no athletes are more dedicated than these guys. I mean,
cool.
you know, riding some non-winner of one other than on Sunday at Belmont, literally, you know, what, 15 hours, maybe 20 hours after winning the Derby. Pretty good.
I was looking for him in the 13th and the 14th, Paul. They were going to wheel him right back.
Tyler actually on Friday, Pete, rode the last race.
Oh,
2 races after the Oaks.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Oh, my God.
Pete, since you only want to focus on the race, you could care less about any pictures or videos. What other horses you want to talk about?
I mean, Dermot Sotogake was a big thing going in, and he sort of blew his shot right out of the gate. So you don't really know if he was as good as people hoped for. I mean, he sort of screwed himself right at the jump and then didn't run poorly at all. Just I think now people look at it and go, I told you the Japanese horses were no good. And then you can't really argue one way or the other, but I think he was a little disappointing. I mean, obviously Tapit Trice was the most disappointing because he just didn't run. And a lot of people thought he had, I mean, I kept hearing a lot of people outside of this show, obviously, talk about how he was a big contender. Otherwise, it wasn't that. I mean, if you look down beyond those horses, it was the horses you'd expect to be sort of near the bottom.
Yeah, they're, you know, other than Mage winning, which is the most important thing that I did not predict, I felt like on this show, guys, as a whole, myself included, we did a pretty good job analyzing this race. I mean, we didn't like a bunch of the speeds. We thought Two Phils in general was going to run a big race. Angel ran well. You liked Hit Show a little bit, Kyle. Paul liked Disarm a little bit. And we each had a piece. And I don't know who was highest on Mage, either Paul or myself. I don't know. But nothing really happened in this race that really blew me away, was shocking to me, other than Tapit Trice being last at the first turn. I just, Paul, think, and I'll end the conversation with this, and I want to show 2 pictures to end the show. We can wrap it up. Everyone knows that we had a future on Tapit Trice. You like Tapit Trice in the race more than I did after the post. I just feel like if he got 10 or 15 and out, he would have been able to use more speed and wouldn't have gotten trapped down there. Do you still love him as much in the Belmont, Paul, in 5.5 weeks, Tapit Trice?
I would have to honestly say no. I don't want to overreact to one race, but I don't think trapped is inaccurate. I mean, it certainly was a disadvantage. But again, with a mile left in the race, he was 3 lengths behind Mage, and Mage won the race.
Yeah.
So how bad off could he have been? And he had the guy on him who's riding as well as anyone. So, you know, the thing that's disappointing is that Louis had put him in the race earlier at Keeneland, presumably because he was in the 1, but you would think that was going to carry over because the Derby is a race you're not going to win from dead last unless lightning strikes like it did last year with a horse who's never going to win again. So it's just not, you know, it's unfortunate. No excuses. It wasn't a tough loss. It was a costly loss. There was the matter of that $50 cold pick 3. I was alive to him as well as the future bet. So I went with the Matt Miller all in. So I did have a 1x1x1 pick 3 going into him that was alive for another 5,500. So hey, look, again, I picked the wrong horse. That is not breaking news to anyone.
Yeah, I was live to 3 in the pick 5, and the thing that pissed me off is if Farbridge wins earlier, I would have had Mage because I had Mage as
Same
Mage was
here. I
basically
had it
like
with Farbridge,
the
Pete.
thing that pissed me off was I didn't like Tapit Trice after the draw, and I should have I had Mage as my sort of top B. I should have switched the two
Yep.
and didn't. And then, but I had Web Slinger in my pick 5 and was like, I just didn't have
That's a
him
good
in the right spot. And that's what pisses me off. Yeah. It's
Web
you know, it's
Slinger was
tough
the
there.
key to that, Pete. I couldn't come up with him.
Yeah.
I also had the pick 5 with Farbridge. I had Mage as a B, so I was okay if
Yeah.
Farbridge had won, but
Yeah.
he didn't. So
The one thing, real quick, you said, oh, sorry, Howard. I was going to say real quick, what Paul said was he talked about Tapit Trice and he didn't move with Mage. It's actually funny because Mo Donegal had a similar last year where Mo Donegal, who people liked a lot, even from the one, he had the chance to run the same race Rich Strike did and didn't. And then he comes back, though, and wins the Belmont. So it could be from a Tapit Trice standpoint, if it follows sort of the similar Mo Donegal path, then maybe you sort of toss the Derby. The Derby's funny. You almost toss the Derby after this. I mean,
oh yeah, no, he's still a force. I'm not saying I'm jumping off the bandwagon. Howard asked if I was as high on him now as I was going in, and I have to honestly say no based on that. But you know, Belmont is a different. Although you don't win it from last, but you know, it's the big sweeping turns, which are right up his alley. It's not going to be a field of 20. It's probably going to be a field closer to 12. I do think there's a legitimate chance we're going to have a horse maybe going for the Triple Crown because I think Mage has a legitimate chance. But I think Tapit Trice is going to be formidable at Belmont. I'm just not as high as I was before the Derby.
Well, if my brother is still listening, by the way, Mike, I'm going to show a picture of you and I in a minute. So hang tight for literally 2 or 3 more minutes, Mike, if you're still listening. You led me right to my very last point for Kyle and Pete. It looks like First Mission is Mage's major threat in a week and a half, and it's tough to come back if Mage wins the Preakness, and I'd love to see him win, frankly, especially because I'm going to be at the Belmont. Here's my question for everyone: let's say Mage wins. Let's say Forte and Tapit Trice, which I would think they would both be going to the Belmont. Who's favored in the Belmont?
Mage.
If Mage wins the Preakness, I think it'll be Mage.
Yeah.
It'll be closer than you
Forte
think.
would be favored.
I don't think so. I mean, because Mage will take the funny money. Mage will take the people who bet on the horse trying to win the Triple Crown money. Forte's not like some dominant horse that just didn't make. I mean, I think there was enough doubting of Forte to begin with.
We'll see.
So I think Mage will take it.
I would take a bet. I would choose Forte or Tapit Trice over Mage in the Belmont, though. Like, I don't care about the odds. Just, again, the whole, I'll give you $1 million. You either get Forte and Tapit Trice or Mage. I would take the Pledgers. I think they're more likely to win than Mage in the Belmont.
Well, if you could have both of them, obviously. But if you had to pick one of them,
I might take even one of them, actually. But anyway, I hope we see it, Paul, because that would be crazy, crazy Belmont experience.
Well, I've certainly seen plenty of horses not win the Triple Crown with a chance, and fortunately, I did see one actually win it with American Pharaoh. But I've saw many more go up in flames. I was there when I'll have another get scratched before the day before the race. So crazy. I've seen all sorts of Belmont heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, Mage would probably be favored, Peter, right? But I
mean, that Preakness is light too, so it looks like we might.
I'll tell you what, though, boys. First Mission
is good.
That's a real racehorse. That's going to be.
Yep.
That is definitely Mage's stumbling block in the. I don't care who else shows up. The horse he's got to beat is First Mission.
Yeah, it's going to be
Kyle,
fun.
your buddy Hitchell might be a fact. I mean, I don't know if he's good enough, but I think that kind of race would be right up his alley. Real quick, here is the person that Pete was just ripping on all show long. That's my brother.
No, I was ripping on you. Not
I was ripping. You got the wrong
whatever.
Your brother's awesome. I don't even know your brother, and I like him already.
Pete, I can attest to that. I had a great meal with him Friday night.
Yeah, see, I was just making more fun of the fact that he had to keep centering you in the middle of all these videos and photos. That's not his fault.
Well, he had to earn his keep.
I mean, he had to kiss up. He got the pass. He had to earn his keep, I guess. Yeah, like you said. So.
Okay,
that's
really
good shot.
What that means, but anyway, I'll just move on. Yeah, this is sort of I wanted to close on this shot. It was an incredible experience, guys. And people, we can say about the wins and losses and Farbridge and frickin' King Ottoman not, being put up in Fort Bragg and Revelita. I could go on and on. F that stuff. None of that stuff seriously matters, guys. The whole experience, Paul, and I'm sorry again for saying it was your second. I don't know what I was thinking. The whole experience was just absolutely incredible. Paul, I'll Pete and Kyle, your final thoughts, and I'll let Paul with the very final thoughts since he was with me there at the Derby.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I mean, like I said, I didn't get to spend it with better people. Got to spend it in the bar. The bar heard me, rattle off a few curse words at my continuing second-itis. It seemed like I knew right when our guy, what's his name? King Ottoman didn't win that race. I knew it was over for me. Not to mention Spenderella and everybody else past that. But it was a ton of fun. Realistically for the Derby, the wallet's only one thing. The experiences and the memories with everybody else is always the biggest thing. And that's with a big day like the Derby where everyone pays attention, and that one guy that everyone comes to for Derby picks the one weekend a year is, a ton of fun, and can't wait to look forward to what we got coming.
Pete, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's Derby Day. I mean, Derby Day is always awesome, and as much as I like to needle you guys, it looked like you guys had a great time and a great experience, and you only get your first time once, even though you keep thinking it was Paul's second, but you only get your first time going once, and to soak it in, you can't beat anything more than that. I mean, the rest, like you said, doesn't matter. Just enjoyed it, and we're happy to be watching you guys enjoy it from afar.
Thanks, Pete. I was definitely thinking about everyone on the show. I'll wait for my final comment. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I just want to, if I could just tell one more very quick story. I was after every stakes race, they take the connections up to the director's room for a champagne toast. And of course, I was kind of tagging along with the Dormans, doing my proper research for my project. And a woman approached me and said, is that Cody and his family? I said, yeah. She goes, I'd love to meet them. And I said, I'm sure they'd love to meet you. So she introduced, this is unbelievable. She says, so I introduced myself and tell her why I'm there, that I'm there with them and writing a book about the thing. And she says, my name is Kate Tweedy. It was Kate Tweedy, daughter of Penny Chenery Tweedy, owner of Secretariat, which after Cody's winning being with Cody, that was the highlight of my weekend because, with such, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I'm a Secretariat nut. I was 10 years old and I can't say that I remember the races, but I have just love everything about him. And I told her the story, Howard, of our good friend, Dr. Jeff Mora, who connected you and me, who's in the chat many nights, who 50 years ago wrote a handwritten letter to Penny Chenery expressing his love for Secretariat, got a handwritten letter back, and he will be bringing that handwritten letter to the Belmont to show Kate Tweedy, her daughter, the letter that he got from her mother 50 years ago. So
that's awesome.
How cool is that?
That is
crazy.
Just think about that. That is absolutely amazing.
That was pretty good.
What's also amazing, I'm going to close out, is our viewers and fans. Paul, thank you for sort of helping me, navigate everything at the Derby. Paul was we didn't actually spend that much time together, to be honest. During the races, Paul was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. But I just wanted to shout out to Paul for your friendship and kindness and everything there, and for allowing me to meet also Cody and Leslie Dorman, the mother as well. That was very cool. And the last thing I'm going to say is, Kyle, Pete, Paul, Charlie, Patrick. I only got emotional once this weekend. I was thinking about my parents, but also a little bit about this podcast, because this past weekend, guys, was a culmination of all of our hard work. And I know I was pretty much solo for the first, year and a half, but you guys have been a big part of it, almost a full year now. And I couldn't do it without you guys. And because of your hard work allowed me to be there. And if I said something otherwise, that would just be completely unfair and disrespectful. So really shout out to everyone involved with the podcast, all you viewers, fans, because we were there because of you guys, and we plan on coming back every year. They're going to have us, and hopefully, I'm sure Pete and Kyle will be happy to hear about this, more than just 2 credentials, but that's not in our hands. But again, shout out to everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed Derby weekend, whether you won or lost money. I shared a lot of things with you guys, videos, and you can tell in pictures, you can tell it was quite the experience. So for Pete Visco, Paul Halloran, Kyle Roscoe, this has been Howard Kravitz, episode 257 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Check out Bettin Boozin tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and our flagship show this Thursday night. We'll be covering Belmont. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.